Welcome to a special episode of Character Spotlight, where I, David, will be asking our DM, Eric, some questions about his DMing. It's not really a character; it's a special
Yeah, it's a DM
episode.
spotlight, right?
It's a DM spotlight. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So Eric here is going to be answering our questions, and hopefully, if y'all have any questions that you want to ask him yourselves, you can always comment down below, and I'm sure that he will be forced to answer those questions by
I will,
somebody. We don't know
I will
who.
force myself to answer them.
Um,
Consistent forcing across the board.
but I figured I'd start out with the basic five. So first question is why DM?
Sure.
However you want to take that, why did you start
Yeah,
being a DM? Why do you like being a DM? Or why are you the DM?
sure.
All of those are really good
Yeah,
questions.
so I haven't been playing D&D that long. I've been playing for about like 11 months. And within like the first couple times, like being so nervous, like, okay, do I really like this or is it just something different? And then it got to the point of like, okay, yeah, I do actually really like this. So whenever I like something, like a game specifically, I just go straight into it. I'm very much a learn by fire kind of person. So like within like the first, I think 4 months, I'd already like lined up my first DM session, which most of the times is not a good idea for someone to DM with only 4 months experience, but that's how I learn. So I did it and I liked it, and I'm like, hey, this is all right, and it's a very different kind of enjoyment for DMing versus being a player. Um, but I enjoy the variety of that. I enjoy both the DM aspects and the player aspects. So basically, when I started this campaign, I just wanted more D&D in my life, and it was the easiest thing if I was the DM. Because the DM is the person that organizes, the one that sets dates, the one that sets how often this is going to be. And the best way to do it as often or as little as you want to do it is to be the one over it, which is the DM position. So that's kind of why I started the campaign.
So the next question I have is who DM? So who is the DM?
Sure.
And I figured I should let you introduce yourself a little bit
Sure.
to those of us who might not know.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Eric. So I am a longtime board game and just gamer enthusiast. So while I haven't been playing D&D long, I've been gaming all my life. Mostly video games out of accessibility reasons. Just because it's much easier to hop on a video game at the end of the day than necessarily have people over at your house. But my love has always been in person board games, specifically board games with a high social aspect. So, like, one of my favorite games of all time is Settlers of Catan, because you just have that constant social interaction. I love poker. You have that constant social interaction. I love games that are skill, love games that are chance, and love games where you get to have cool interactions with your friends. And that is pretty much D&D. That's kind of like always really been what I've enjoyed in games growing up. And D&D is just a very broad range for that. So yeah, that's me.
It
Gamer,
hits all of
nerd.
your.
It hits all the boxes, man.
Hmm. So then I figured, what DM? So for those of people who don't know, might want to ask, what is a DM?
Sure.
What does a DM do, and how do you go about doing that? I
Sure,
suppose.
absolutely. So the DM's role in the game is to basically be the overseer of the game, the planner of the game, the narrator of the game. They control all of the bad guys that need to be killed, and control the NPCs. They create the storyline, the plot line. They create characters that people are supposed to grow attached to. They create turmoil. They create joy. So basically, just recreating emotions from real life and putting that into the game itself. How they do that is done through a variety of methods. Um, core facets of D&D, which are led by the DM, is of course combat, exploration, and roleplay. With combat and roleplay being like the main things, and exploration kind of is like the second cousin that sits in the corner at a family reunion. You might talk to him every now and then. You're like, oh, that guy's cool, and you don't talk to him again for the rest of the night. So that's basically the DM's role, is to facilitate roleplay. They do that through having conversations with the different non-player characters in the game, and then the combat, obviously controlling the bad guys, creating a reason for why the party wants to kill the bad guys. So, and then the exploration, planning dungeons, figuring out like the physical aspect of like, okay, here's a puzzle, here's a riddle, here are the clues, this is what the possible solution is, that sort of thing.
So my next question is how DM. So how is the DM? And maybe we could talk about how you're doing, but
Sure.
particularly I was thinking more along the lines of how do you DM?
Hmm.
Like what are the resources that you use? What are your go-to tools to
Sure.
use?
So my first game I ever DM'd was a pre-planned adventure from Wizards of the Coast. I
Mhm.
prefer a homebrew campaign where I make the rules, I make the characters, that sort of thing. That's obviously very much more labor intensive. So Wizard of the Coast has several good adventures. The ones that I did start out with was Mines of Fendelver, and it was very good in walking me from like the first steps of, okay, this is how you present it, this is what you narrate, this is this person's goal, this is this person's goal, you need to introduce this aspect, you need to do this, the players could do this, react this way, the players could do this, react this way. So that kind of gave me a little bit more confidence going in. Obviously, for most people, it's going to be better to get several games under your belt as a player first before you try to DM. But if you have a friend group that wants to play and no one's tried it, you can still just buy one of those box kits. I think it's like $20, and just get together and you can fumble your way through it. And hopefully, fumbling is a fun thing for you, because you will never get outside of that with D&D, because the rule books are hundreds of pages long. You will constantly be fumbling through your career, so learn to enjoy the fumbling. As far as the resources that I use, Dungeon Master's Guide is a great resource. There's a lot of other accessory books, which includes more rulings and more information that the DM can use. There's one like that has random encounters based off level players. You have the monster manual. If you have like enemies you want to bring in, it'll help you kind of figure out how to scale them, that sort of thing. I have a app on my tablet that I mainly use called Encounters Plus, and I use it for two reasons mainly. The first thing is it helps me track initiative a lot easier. Um, for a couple reasons. For the players, I let them actually roll physically their initiative and tell me. I just input that manually. For the monsters, I can basically just port them in. It has hundreds and hundreds of monsters already in there. I just say, all right, load this in, load this in, load this in, and I just roll it right there on the tablet. Automatically goes straight into initiative. The other thing I use it for is the story aspect of the game, because that's very important to keep very organized, especially in a homebrew campaign. Because if not, you can just get overwhelmed if you're scrolling through 80 pages of a Google Sheets document, right? Like, it's not going to work out well. So I use that. It's
Yeah.
split up into like different folders, so I can be like, okay, they're in this town. Then I have everything listed out by the shop, and then when you click on the shop folder, it pops up. All right, this is the things they sell. This is the NPC. This is the possible quest line they could have gotten. So I use that to kind of keep track of things in my mind. I very segment things like folders like that. So for me, it's very easy. Usually within like 8, 10, 15 seconds, I can find exactly where I need to be for wherever the party is at that moment in time.
Was just going to say, contrasting with how I DM'd,
Mm-hmm.
where I basically used absolutely no resources outside of a Microsoft Word document,
Yeah.
an Excel spreadsheet, and a lot of this, and it made for a pretty miserable time. Don't do that
Yeah.
if you can help it. Just gonna warn you that right now.
And it still
Um,
works. It's just
it does, but
not the
it's a lot
best.
more.
There's a lot of
It's a
great
lot
free
more labor
resources.
intensive,
Oh
and
yeah,
it's a
for
lot
sure.
more. So I would totally suggest anybody who's wanting to start DMing, use the resources available to you,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of really cool resources
Hmm.
out there.
And there's a lot
Um,
of really
and
good
I
free
don't
ones
really
too.
know all that many. Eric probably knows more than me because I never got past just kind of making it all up.
Yeah.
All right. So I have my next question, which is where DM, but specifically, where are you most comfortable DMing? Like
Sure.
what aspect of the game or what have you?
Yeah. So, as far as the physical location, I usually DM in my house. So we do Lotus Vale in a hybrid format, which has its pros and cons. The pro is that David can join, being that he is in New Jersey and I am in North Carolina. It's a couple hundred miles away. So there's obviously like some cons to that as well. Um, if you're first starting out as a DM, I would highly recommend you just do in person only. Just because it's going to be easier for others to help you figure out how to do things. Uh, as far as like where in the specific part of the game I'm most comfortable with, I'm definitely more combat oriented. As a DM, I tend to lean towards things that I enjoy as a player, and I really enjoy the combat system of D&D 5e. So that's kind of where I excel because when I play as a player, that's kind of the play style I tend to lean towards. Um, I will say that I have, since DMing, I have used my role playing a lot more than I ever did as a player. Partly out of necessity because that is an important facet of the game that you can't ignore. Like a campaign with just 100% combat is not going to keep people coming back for more in most cases. Um, Now, that may not be the case for us because we like combat, but for most people. So that's something I've had to like kind of work on and stretch that role playing bone, if you will. So that's been fun and very rewarding in a lot of ways because people remember good combat moments, but the best memories that people have are from great role playing moments. So when you talk about like something great or amazing that happened, usually it's not about how you killed a dragon because you're expected to kill the dragon, but it's from the role play moments doing something that maybe you shouldn't have tried or something that shouldn't have worked, but you rolled really high so it did. So, I'm still working on expanding that role playing bone, but yeah, that's been an exercise for me.
To be fair, sometimes it can be a little bit of the both coming together as far
Hmm.
as the best moments in combat and
Correct.
having that role play moment in
Hmm.
combat can be very powerful.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's just from and that's not really particularly important to your interview. So continuing on. So I had to say where most comfortable, so I could
Hmm.
ask you where are you most uncomfortable
Sure.
DMing?
Yeah, so probably still in there's still a lot of mechanics in D&D that I just am not super familiar with.
Hmm.
Because like I said, there's I did the math, there's like 1400 pages of official content in just like some of the like main 5 books, and there's a lot more past that. So knowing a lot of mechanics is very difficult, especially knowing in the flow of the game, because it's also a job of the DM to know when to follow the rules and when not to follow the rules for sake of brevity, right? So sometimes making a bad call is better than reading rules for 15 minutes and making a good call. So
Oh yeah.
it's about creating an enjoyable time for your players, and your players enjoy it mostly when the rules are clear and solid and they understand them. But at the end of the day, sometimes you got to make those calls, and it's going to be something where, in most cases, somebody's not going to be happy with that call because it may not. benefit them, but it may benefit the group as a whole. So, like an example of that, jumping in mechanics for D&D, very few people understand them correctly, and it's not super common, you know. So even like there was one game where Maria Zephyr wanted to jump from like a cart to a wall to kind of trim down on movement speed to climb up a wall a little bit quicker. I'm like, I don't have time to look this up in the middle of the game. Like, we're in the middle of like this intense combat. These bears are storming the road. So I made the choice of making the call of like, hey, you can't do this. And doing that with confidence and knowing that, hey, this is the right call is probably the tougher part, because like I said, DMing is a lot of fumbling through, and you're going to make mistakes, and prioritizing to make the right mistakes is something that I kind of struggle with. As well as, you know, like I said, the role play, I don't do that as much. I think I'm getting better at it, and hopefully that shows. But it's still definitely on my weaker part of the game as far as DMing and as a player as well. So that's still something that I'm not as comfortable with. I get more nervous for like big role play scenes than I do big encounter scenes, because I'm just a lot more familiar with combat than I am with role play. And also with combat, you have a good feel for what's coming up. With role play, I don't know what the heck you guys are going to do. I can't plan for it. It's not possible. So it is just a making it up on the fly. Fortunately, I enjoy making it up on the fly, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm always going to be good at it. So,
Word for it. I can't remember what the word is off the top of my head, but improvisation. That's it. The improvisation correct. Is just
yeah.
It can be really, really good.
Yeah.
It can also be incredibly awful.
Yeah.
So,
especially if you're improvising for like 3 hours straight, it can get tiring.
It's the well of ideas runs dry.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say that specifically as far as making mistakes as a DM, I was watching a professional DM earlier, just earlier today, and like completely forgot about concentration rules for an entire combat. And they kind of needed the help the players did.
Sure, yeah.
So it kind of made sense, but that kind of thing happened, and they just let it happen. And maybe somebody going back and watching that would be like, why did they they completely forget? But we're all human. We all make mistakes. Absolutely. And sometimes the mistakes that we make end up making it flow better, or sometimes you have to say, I was wrong, but I'm going to do it that way anyway because it's the right way to do it.
Sure, yeah.
Anyway, I feel like I'm talking a lot.
Well, no, you're fine. And there's also a lot of rules. If you're going to go strictly by the rules as written, or raw as we refer to it, there's a lot of rules that just aren't fantastic for the flow of the game. Like, you understand why they exist, but in most cases, it's like, okay, like interacting with a weapon. So every turn you can basically interact with one item as part of your turn. Is what the rules as written is. So that could be picking up a weapon, dropping a weapon, stashing a weapon in your bag. So, like, for example, if you're a rogue and you're in the backlines with a short bow and you decide you want to walk up and stab someone with a dagger, you technically can't do that because you've used your item interaction to put the bow away, and you don't have your item interaction to pull another dagger back out and attack. And like it makes sense why that rule is there, because you don't want people just swapping out constantly between all these powerful weapons. But at the same time, it's like, let your rogue go and take a knife out and attack them. Like, it's fine, So you got to know when to break the rules, which is part of your job.
I kind of remember there being something. Anyway, whatever. This doesn't matter. I was gonna say, like, there's a subclass that might get like an extra item interaction.
Oh, is there?
Maybe.
Interesting.
It might have just been in a.
I don't think I've seen it in Player's Handbook. It might be in one of the other classes.
It might be. It might also be like a thing that a video game did, or like a session I watched where they did a homebrew rule. Who knows? Sure. But it's a cool idea because
Yeah.
fast hands and all that jazz.
Hmm.
Anyway, uh, off of that tangent now. So my next question is, what is your proudest moment as a DM?
Hmm.
Uh, Generally, like a really good like session or combat or the like, and very specifically, like what is the one thing that you can point to is and say that has been my best work thus far?
Sure. So I'll give you a couple of things. Let's go back to the three facets. I'll give you my favorite from each facet
Hmm.
of what I consider for D&D. So my favorite exploration aspect would be when I introduced like a temple that had magical items in it that you guys had to loot. And so I basically had a rough idea of what I wanted to do, but it was not honed in at all. Like I'm like, okay, yeah, there'll be puzzles, there'll be traps, there'll be loot, this boss guy will pop up, etc. That was pretty much the extent I had figured it out. And then you guys basically stumbled upon it by chance through random encounters, and you're like, and I had kind of like phrased the session towards, hey, you guys should probably head towards this. But I'm very big on players making the choices that they make and not railroading my players into what I want them to do. I always want them to make the decision that they want to do and that their players want to do. So you guys are like, no, we're going to go in this temple. It's like, all right, we're going to take a 15-minute break here while I plan out an entire temple for you guys to explore, puzzle, and boss fight. And it's by far not a great dungeon. It's not super polished, but for 15 minutes and to provide like an hour and a half or 2 hours of enjoyment, I was really proud that in the moment it's like, okay, I know what I need to do. I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this. I was proud of that. Um, as far as the combat, probably some of the arena fights because I was very clear with you guys that these were pre-planned fights that were kind of scaled for certain difficulty levels, and you guys cleared one great and decided to keep going and keep going, and you guys went a little bit further than probably you should have. And I remember at the beginning of the combat, I believe you made the comment that I don't think we're getting out of this one today, boys, or something along those lines. Like,
I think I specifically said, well, Zoro's dead.
yeah, yeah, like everybody there thought they were just going to die. And it's not necessarily anything that I did, but I was proud of that moment in the sense of I gave you guys a challenge that I was pretty sure you guys could not handle. And you guys barely, barely, barely did it. And a
Hmm.
couple dice rolls differently, y'all would have all died. But you didn't. So
Arthur MVP that session.
yeah,
Just saying.
yeah, you did. Yeah, you kept everyone else from dying. Um, so that was like a really proud moment, not in the sense necessarily of my skill, but as a DM, it's like, okay, I don't want to make you guys necessarily think you're going to die every session, but the fact that I could instill those emotions, it kind of meant something because as a DM, you're constantly chasing that. Like you're trying to present a story, you're trying to present areas where it brings out emotion in your players, and when those emotions shine through, you're like, I'm doing something right. They actually care. Now, in this particular case, it was caring about your characters not dying, but it still applies.
We genuinely were fearing for our characters' deaths,
Yes.
and we were having a hard time making decisions in combat because it was like, do I let this guy die? I don't
Yeah.
want to let my friend die.
Sure.
And those kind of moments are, a really good testament to how good a DM Eric
Yeah.
is.
And then going back to my favorite role playing aspect, probably the play that we did. I think that had the most positive feedback from the players specifically. And
Hmm.
it was really fun for me to write, imagining how it was going to happen. And then it happened, and it was like even better than I thought it would because everybody seemed to love it. So basically I wrote like a 3-page skit basically of our characters that were in the campaign, and it was like a little bit of revisionist history where it was told from a different point of view, where things were told not necessarily as they happened, but as they happened according to one person's eyes that made themselves look a little bit better. So it was a very funny and hilarious grouping. You killed the meows, David. That was your only line, and you filled the emotional cues with each meow perfectly. And I wish we had it recorded because it was great.
A thought occurs, though. We could totally put a link in the description to that play if you want to do that.
We don't have the audio on it though, because that was the day I recorded,
I
and I
know,
had the
but
video
like
but not the audio.
we could put
Oh, the actual
the script.
document. That's true. We
Yeah, we
could.
could put the script
Yeah,
down
yeah, I
there.
like that. Yeah, we should put that in there. And by we, I mean
But
you. You should put it in there since you do the YouTubes.
I do the YouTubes. Anyways, so those were three different things as far as places where you were proud. So the next thing I was going to ask, what was the session that was the most fun for you? Not necessarily as a DM, but the most fun,
So including player sessions.
including the sessions where you were a player.
Okay.
Yes,
In this campaign specifically, or in general?
yes. In this
In
campaign
this campaign.
specifically.
Got you. Um, it's probably. I think the highest high I had was from the session where you guys went to basically go find Goldie, and
Hmm.
because as a DM, I really like to surprise my players, and I feel like that session specifically, I was able to bring several surprises. One being we had Josh come in as a character, as a cleric, who had never played, and he was like hiding in a back room. So like the session didn't even start with him, and he just came out narratively, and it seemed to flow okay. Then we had the play, which obviously I've already speak how much I enjoyed the reactions from that, and then bringing back Goldie, which is a character that was in the first couple sessions but hadn't come back as kind of like a farewell thing. So I would say probably that one is one of my more enjoyable sessions, just because I was able to implement. Usually, I try to go for like one surprise every session or two. In that session, I had 3 surprises that I enjoyed bringing.
All right. So on the same note, but less on a positive note, what was the session that was the least fun for you?
Sure. Um, Least fun. It's probably one of the earlier sessions,
Hmm.
just because I was less, not necessarily less confident, but also just like less knowledgeable, right? And not knowing some mechanics of the game. Um, One session that sticks out to me is when you guys went to Lavender Vale to fight the vampire guy. So, as a DM, you have to decide what information to give to your players and what information to withhold. And I
Mm.
think that I withheld too much information that led to a very slow combat encounter that just wasn't fun. So basically they went to this town. They got unbeknowingly hosted by a vampire who, when the night came out, the full moon came out, they turned to their vampire form. He turned on his own children, started attacking them, actually ended up killing his own daughter. So classic bad guy story. And then the fight lasted probably what, like hour 15.
Something like that.
Yeah, so in his stat block, he has basically where he heals up every turn. And I didn't relay that information to my characters, so it seemed like they were just whacking a wooden stick at a sandbag for an hour, hour and a quarter. And I didn't really portray the information that he was healing or portray the information that he was hurt. There was no smaller enemies for them to actually kill to feel like they had made progress. So that kind of like, I learned from that, if you're going to do like a single boss enemy, you need to make it somewhat rewarding along the path instead of just at the end. Because in most encounters, you're going to be like killing smaller creatures and slowly working your way up. But in that fight, like people were yawning, people were tired, people were making mistakes, people had headaches. It just wasn't. It wasn't a great session as far as the combat. The role play side of it, I think was fine. I enjoyed the surprise of the vampire killing his own daughter. I think that was a cool element of that, but the session as a whole, when the whole big workup of the roleplay to this combat, and then you just have that very stale combat. And again, that's something as a new DM you learn, like, okay, you know what, I'm going to change it up next time. Next time I have a big bad, it's not going to be just one person that heals constantly and is just a giant meat shield. And the thing is, they weren't even really dealing damage to you guys that much either. Like, you guys were
Yeah,
fine. It was just time. It was a time sink. Is all it really
it,
was.
it was in fact a large time sink, and if I remember correctly from that session, I think it was one of the sessions where we had uh, there was only two people at your house, and then we called in.
Yeah, there were
We had
three
three
people
people
online.
call in separately,
Yeah.
and that caused a lot of issues with
Oh
communication
yeah.
too, because we were having connectivity problems where some characters wouldn't hear. So a lot of it was also technical, which was completely out of your control as a DM. But I can see how that could be
But you
incredibly
factor it all together,
frustrating.
it just wasn't. I think it was definitely one of the weaker sessions in
Hmm.
terms of that. So
I do believe that a lot of the issues that came about because of that weren't because of you specifically,
yeah,
but I don't think you did anything particularly to fix the problem, as
yeah,
it were. I don't know.
yeah.
Anyway, also, uh, cliche is cliche. But yeah, so thank you for answering all these questions.
Yeah,
I have one more question for you,
absolutely.
and it's where do you see the future of this campaign going?
Sure,
Like, do you see it growing and becoming this huge thing,
sure.
or do you think it's going to go in a different direction,
Hmm.
or is it just something that you've enjoyed so far?
Yep. So as of right now, I intend on it being continually a long-term campaign. I
Hmm.
basically from the start realized that this is something I want to do over a term of like 1, 2, maybe 2.5 years. And we're currently what, 6, 7 months in, 5 months,
Something
something
like
like
that,
that.
yeah.
So, and we're like 11 sessions in. So, like, I feel confident. Hey, this is going to keep happening. This is worth continuing to devote my time to. I view the different aspects of the campaign in terms of seasons. So the first season has started and has concluded, and which was pretty much what I consider the setup sessions, which was basically the first like 9, 10 sessions of the game. Um, and now we're what I consider season two, which is taking down of the Rosethorn Trading Company, which you guys are actively pursuing those threads. Starting upcoming with our session tomorrow, which will be 431, where they attempt to take down the master magic of the Rosethorn Trading Company. So basically, I set up three kind of like mini bosses as an aspect of the RTC, and then there'll be like a bigger battle at the end to actually remove control of the RTC. That will be the conclusion of season two. Once we get to that point, I have no clue what's going to happen because I haven't got that far yet. So I'm focusing basically all my attention on creating the stories that need to be told in the interim. I know what the starting point and I know what the ending point is, but I have a whole lot of middle ground I'm still figuring out in terms of how you guys are going to get there. But so that's kind of like my immediate plans for the future, for at least probably the next 6, 8, 10 sessions, something like that. We'll be
Mhm.
pursuing this thread line. I don't really see it being like, oh, we'll do one session and knock out this entire thing. It's going to take time. I'm going to make you
Yeah.
guys take your time with this. Um, Once we reach that point, most likely what's going to happen is I'm going to let some other people guest DM for a couple of sessions,
Mhm.
and that'll allow me a couple things. First off, to recharge as a DM, to get some player reps in. Enjoy playing. I have a lot of NPCs that I've introduced that are fun for me to play, so I'll just come in and play them as a full time role for a couple sessions. Um, and it allows some of our other players to exercise that DM bone. Most of our players have DM'd in the past, and most of them don't do it on a regular basis, but they enjoy doing it, at least occasionally. So that's kind of like my tentative plans, probably for that intermediate period. After that, I want to get you guys to explore other parts of the continent and see different things. Now I have to figure out how to do that narratively and how to do it mechanically. Obviously, I've started this campaign with kind of like the whole premise of starting a town and all the work that goes into that. And when you're starting a town, it's much harder to just go ahead and go on the other side of the country. Like, if you're a small business owner, you know this. Like, you're kind of glued locationally to where you are.
You have
So,
an anchor.
correct. So, I as a DM have to figure out how to either make that anchor not as anchory, or make the chain between the boat and the anchor as long as possible, to where you
Hmm.
guys can still explore and still feel connected to a home base. Um,
Hmm.
which I think is a unique aspect about this game, because that's not in a lot of D&D campaigns, and it comes with its own setbacks because of that. So anyway, so that's kind of like my plans for the future. Not really planning on ending the campaign anytime soon. The caveat is I have expressed on multiple occasions that a total party kill means that the campaign is over. There are no more characters to pick up the pieces if all the characters die in the same game. Um,
Unfortunately, that's how that's going to end up going if
there is a
we all do
very
die.
high chance of that. So, at which point, I'll figure out a new campaign and we'll go from there. So I'm not planning on stopping D&D, and if that happens, that won't be the end of my DM career. That'll just be another transition point. But I have stated that very specifically narratively. It doesn't make sense if all your characters die and you just have new characters come to town and like, oh well, I guess we fill these roles of all these other people and we just get everything they had, you know. So
It wouldn't really work unless we had a few survivors.
correct, yeah.
And
Now if one person gets out and everybody else dies, sure, yeah, we'll bring it back, which I think also introduces an interesting aspect of when do you leave your party to die.
that's like emotional trauma, which
Hmm.
is exactly
I like giving
what
emotional trauma.
what every DM enjoys giving. I was going to ask. You said earlier that all of us have DM'd before. I was going to say, is Chris the only one who
No, he's
hasn't?
the only one who hasn't. Yep, yep. So,
Okay.
you, David, Maria, and John have all DM'd. I've been players in all of your games so far. So, yeah. So
To
in
varying degrees of success.
Yeah, so in most of those have either been either like one-shot games or campaigns where
Mhm.
there's only been like 2 or 3 sessions. I haven't really, as a player, been in a campaign where there's multiple sessions with the same group of people. So yeah.
That's something that you're hoping to scratch the itch for,
Yes.
or is that just a
I'm hoping
okay?
to, but I'm not going to give up DMing to get that.
Oh yeah,
I want that on
it's
the side. I want more, David. I need more. I want it all.
well. We have a DM who wants it all, so I guess signing off now from Lotusville to you. If our party dies, that'll be a very unfortunate name for our
Yeah.
YouTube channel. Just thinking about that.
Yeah. We may have to change that once we get to that point, but
Anyway, well, thank you for answering all our questions.
thanks
And
for having
again,
me.
if you have any questions, the viewer at home, go ahead and comment them down below, and then see if we give you a good answer or not. And
I'll give an answer. It may not be the right answer, but I'll give you one.
I mean, like, you give us the right questions, we'll give you the right answers. You give us the wrong questions, and we don't know what you're gonna get. Anyway, thanks for coming, and see y'all around.
Thank you, David. Bye bye.